Good evening, Dominica. Good evening to you, and welcome to another episode of Roots Connections on Q, right here on Q95, the big station. Whether you're joining us from Dominica, the Caribbean, or the rest of the world, it is great to be back with you as we continue to explore the ever perennial question: how can we Dominicans and friends of Dominica at home and abroad advance Dominica? And what role can each one of us play with this mission? You know, as the world continues to evolve and change, how do we position Dominica to take advantage and benefit from a world where change is the only constant? So this is what we are here to do. We gather here every second and fourth Wednesday to take a deeper look at the issues that are affecting us with the view towards making impactful change. So what are the issues that are impacting us and how can we change those issues? We look at the changes we should be taking advantage of, or what changes we need to make in order to move our country and our people forward. As always, we continue to stand in solidarity with those who are on the front line fighting the countless battles we face in Dominica. But just as important, we also stand in solidarity with those who recognize that in order to effect the change that we are seeking, Dominicans must be financially independent so that we can be free to make other important and independent decisions, such as electing the government. So again, whether you're joining us from Dominica, the Caribbean region, or the rest of the world, welcome to Roots Connections. This is episode number 58 for today, November 8th, 2023, and I am your host, Simone Matthew. We have another packed program for you today as we look at as the world continues to change and evolve, is our attitude towards women and girls in Dominica still antiquated? So let me repeat this because this is going to be a power-packed program. As the world continues to change and evolve, is our attitude towards girls and women in Dominica still antiquated? And what are the implications of not changing the way we feel about the role of women and girls in our society? But before we get started, let us always remember to pray for our country. We especially pray today, and we are grateful that little Ashley George, who was missing for a few hours, she was returned to her family. So we are grateful for that. And we are also grateful that most of us enjoyed a safe and incident-free Creole celebration in Dominica. And that many of us, including 8 of us who were camped out in my house in Baffersted, were able to directly support many Dominican small businesses during the Creole celebration season in Dominica this year. So with that, let us welcome our guests and thank them for taking time out of their busy schedules to join us today. Today we are joined by women's advocate, Mrs. Delia Cuffy Weeks, and the women of Rosie Sparks Women Dominica, formerly known as Rosa Parks Women Dominica. So we are joined by nurse midwife, Mrs. Rosie Felix, as well as Dominica State College clinical instructor, Mrs. Annette Sanford. So with that, let us ask them to unmute their mics and just greet us with any introduction words you would like to share at this time. So Annette, I know you have to leave us a little bit early, so let's begin with you.
Good evening, Dr. Simone, and good evening to your listeners. Good evening to Lambi. I can see you in the studio. It's a pleasure to have you with us. And I do hope that we have a positive impact on whoever is listening this evening. I am from the Kalinago territory, born and raised in Sineku, one of the most challenging communities, I would say, in the Kalinago territory. And I feel compelled to continue to advocate for women's rights and little girls' rights in Dominica.
Yes, thank you for that. And thank you for being here. Rosie, let's go across to you. You're muted. You're still muted.
Good evening, Simone, and thank you for having me again. Pleasant good evening to all your distinguished panelists, my co-women, my champion women, and Lambi in the house, and to all your usual guests from wherever they are listening in the world. Of course, I'm nurse and midwife and entrepreneur and a woman at heart. Like to stand in the gap for women and people in general who are oppressed, because my God is always on the side of the oppressed, and I want to be on the same side like him.
Amen. Amen. Madam Wicks?
Yes, Simone. We said you would say Ma Weeks.
Ma
You
Wicks.
changed it to Madam Weeks.
Ma
Good
Wicks.
evening. Good
Nice
evening.
to
Good
see you.
evening, Simone, Rosie, Annette, Lambi, and everybody who's listening to the program tonight. I am Delia Coffee Weeks, a human first and everything else after. The reason that I say that is once I establish that I'm human first, then people will begin to understand why it is easy for me to stand for the human rights of all of those who are unable to stand for themselves. People are endowed with certain rights, they are born with these things, and for whatever reason, some people are taken advantage of and they do not have a voice. And I have found my voice, and I'm not just satisfied to advocate on my own behalf, but I have now extended my voice to speak out on behalf of vulnerable people. So this is Delia. A lot of people know the voice, they know the person, and hopefully by the end of this program, you will understand a little better what it is that I am all about and what drives me to do what I do.
Yes, thank you for that. Thank you for the introductions. And let me just mention, as we're getting started with the program, we made an effort to have at least one man represented on the panel. And unfortunately, we were unable to have a man on the panel today. So I think it is important that we have our men involved in conversations such as this. So if you're a man and you're listening, we would like for you to consider to join the voices of the women who are speaking up by contacting Rosie Sparks, and we will provide the contact information at the end of the program. So again, it is great to be with you this evening for our number one program for featuring the people, the organizations, the new and ongoing projects and initiatives which are geared towards moving Dominica forward, and for also looking at what changes are needed to advance Dominica, especially as it relates to securing financial opportunities and also the ills that plague us in the society, such as the topic we're going to talk about this evening, because it is all about converting our passion for Dominica into action for Dominica. We are so grateful for you, our audience, listening on Q95 FM radio, whether you're joining us on the radio, you're joining us on Facebook Live at Q95 FM radio, push past 10, or on YouTube at Q95 FM Radio. It is wonderful to be in your company. Don't forget to share the live, click the notification button so you will always know when Q95 and Push Past 10 go live. We continue to be grateful for Mr. G and the Q95 for this opportunity to be here to tap into the human resources of our Dominican experts on these important conversations and to begin reversing the brain drain that has plagued Dominica and the Caribbean region. Lambi, good evening to you. Thank you for being here, as well as our engineer, Sherwin Norris, and DJ Sean in the background. So again, if you're just joining us, welcome to Roots Connections on Q. Today we are asking the very important question: as the world continues to change and evolve, is our attitude towards women and girls in Dominica still very antiquated? So, ladies, here is where I want us to begin this evening. So, let us go all the way back to the beginning of 2023, where we started the year talking about empowering women after the unfortunate deaths of Velma Valmont and Avenel Charles. Yes, we have to remember their names, at the hands of their domestic partners. Now, let's come back to today. And the question is, what actionable steps have we taken all year long to empower women? So this is one of the reasons I'm so happy we're having these conversations, and I'm happy to see the formation of Rosie Sparks Women Dominica, because our conversations are important, but these conversations need to be backed up with action. I think most of us would agree that the Attorney General's comments referring to Mrs. Sanford as a drumstick is only the tip of the iceberg. So today it is time to pull the curtains back on this issue and take a deeper look at the perceived role of women and girls in Dominica today. So, Annette, since the comments were directed at you, tell us a little bit more about your views on this entire situation. You're muted.
Yeah. Firstly, I would just like to share this powerful poem by Maya Angelou. I'm just going to say two verses. It says, "Did you want to see me broken? Bowed head and lowered eyes, shoulders falling down like teardrops, weakened by my soulful cries. You may shoot me with your words, you may cut me with your eyes, you may kill me with your hatred, but still like air I'll rise." When I think of everything that transpired, stemming from being a presidential nominee, it really saddens my heart to see the level of discourse that is happening in Parliament right now. And it's not only with my particular situation, but it has been something that has been happening for a period of time, but it hasn't been addressed to this extent that is happening now. Primarily because most of the victims, for example, like Monel and even myself, and we have persons like Honorable Francisca Joseph and Honorable Ernie John Finn, perhaps we felt that we were in Parliament, so we could have defended ourselves. But to have a presidential nominee out of Parliament and someone in Parliament, even more so the Attorney General, who is supposed to be a non-biased individual, someone who's neutral, someone who's supposed to represent both sides, the opposition and the government side, makes such a comment. I think that our Parliament has stooped very low, and therefore I am thrilled with the fact that Rosie Sparks have stepped up to put some order and to chart the way forward for other rising politicians and to protect and provide a safe environment for women interested in going into politics. So for me as a woman, I believe it is very critical that we take this issue very seriously and that Levi resigns from the office. There are other situations, we can read the news, individuals who would just willingly step down if something like that happens. But in Dominica, I think it's more of a power fight. Individuals want to consistently stay in power, and they use that power to abuse people. And that is the situation with our country right now. So when we look at women in Dominica, women in the Kalinago territory, for instance, I must say that we have made some progress in terms of how we were before to where we are now. There are many women who have professional jobs, working, providing for their families, women who are in distinguished position, like, for example, our president. But because of the political climate, I think it's more of a political fight. We have certain individuals in power wanting to use their power to abuse people and to have their way at all times. And to me, that is what I think is happening with our country. People are being victimized, particularly our women. Our girls are being neglected, especially if they are not of a specific political party. And I am sure that if I were, for example, the Dominica Labour Party nominee, they would have find a list of good things to say about me. I would have been the best candidate on the world. But because I am not part of the team, they would have find ways to try to make me look bad, try to denigrate me and make me feel less of a person. So the fight in Dominica, I believe it's more of it's more political. Men abusing women because of the power that they hold, and they continue to do so.
Thank you, Alambi, for letting me know I was muted. I was truly stunned when I heard the comments coming from the Attorney General. Rosie, Delia, your thoughts on that incident?
Thanks, Simone, and well said, Annette. Of course, Annette is right, and you too, Simone, when you said this is just a tip of the iceberg, because there have been many other instances of verbal abuse of women in the House of Parliament and on political platforms. And beyond the verbal abuse, which is just as bad as physical and sexual and other types of abuse, there's a lot of abuse of women going on, not just in homes, like the cases you referenced when you started the show, the program, like the murder of the women at the beginning of the year. There's a lot of emotional murders of women who in public offices, where women go to seek employment, scholarships, job promotion, and so on. But specific to the Levi Peter issue, when I first heard it, it occurred to me, like, because of the position of the man, the Attorney General of Dominica, it appeared to me like he was putting, he was endorsing. It appeared to me like he was endorsing abuse
Yes.
of women in the house and anywhere, because whether we believe it or not, and it's a fact, children, young people, followers of leaders, we look at our leaders, we look at our people in position, and we tend to emulate, we tend to copy what they do, we tend to look to them for the clue, as to what they say that is okay and what is not okay. And it was very, very disappointing, to say the least, that a man in this position would bring down one woman. At the same time he was raising one, he was bringing down the other, and it's just so shameful, so disgraceful, that when I heard it, it just, that Friday, it just stood up in my heart. Listen, it's just not enough to call and just condemn this statement of this honorable man. we needed to do something more than that.
Yeah, yeah, and let us say attempt to bring down because we know the warrior that Annette Sanford is. So let
Thank
us
you.
use the expression
I
attempt to bring down because
I
as we can
agree.
see from her poem, she will continue to rise despite the challenges. So Delia, let's come to you for your thoughts on that situation.
Well, Simone, when I initially heard the statement, I was in shock.
Me too.
I couldn't really believe that I was hearing what I was hearing. And to be
Mhm,
very honest, that day I was so angry that I decided I was not going to write anything because I
mhm,
know if I had written something on that day, I would not have had the control and I would not have been able to put my thoughts together in a way that made sense. I prayed about it. I slept on it. And the following day, I was able to pen something that somehow I think opened the eyes of a lot of people. And a number of things stood out for me. Number one, not just a man, but a person in a very high position. Because as I said to people, had it been a drunkard on the street who had uttered this nonsense in a drunken stupor, nobody would have paid any attention. But you are in parliament. You are supposedly an unbiased, non politician, and yet still you have the audacity to attack another human being and reduce that person to less than human.
mhm,
That cannot be acceptable. Now, I will tell you something, Simone. When I wrote what I wrote on Facebook, I knew that I was going to get blows. But when a soldier signs up or enlists in the army, even in time of peace, a soldier knows there's a possibility that war may break out. There's a possibility that I may end up on the battlefront. And if I do, there's a possibility I may come home in a body bag. The soldier prays that if I end up on the battlefront, I return home in whole and functional. But if that soldier is afraid to die, that is not a soldier at all. So I am not surprised at the reaction of people. Some people understood where I was coming from and they were able to sift through and see the issue for what it was as it was presented. Other people chose to become super political, which is the norm in Dominica. Everything is mired in colors. Even if they know that you are a registered member of the party, if you say something that is not complimentary, then automatically they begin to question whether you drank something else, whether you've been influenced by somebody else, because you cannot be a level headed thinking person. But be that as it may, I am not afraid. I did not get to where I am in my life by being afraid. I did not start off being as brave as I am now, and I still have far to go. But I just want to use the opportunity to begin to sound a clarion call
mhm.
to tell right thinking people, people who have functional gray matter, your brain still working then. Do not just listen to what people tell you. Stop for a moment, analyze. Ask yourself, is that really what happened? Seek for evidence. And if you are prepared to make a statement or to take action, be prepared to stand by what you believe. It is not always going to be roses or rosy like Nurse Rosie. And even when you have roses, remember with all the beauty, you have thorns among there for whatever reason. So, fear for me is fake emotions appearing real. And those of us who believe in a God who did not give us a spirit of fear, but He gave us a spirit, He gave us power, a sound mind. We have to use that to improve our lives and the lives of everybody around us. And remember, there are only 6 degrees of distance between you and everybody else on the face of the earth. So our actions need to speak for us. We need to know who we are and what we are willing to stand for, else we're going to fall for anything and everything.
Yes, yes. Thank you for that, Delia. And this is such a systematic situation. And I wanted to jump right into the conversation, but I can already see we're going to have a great engagement with our folks on Facebook. Marceline Edwards says, what's the difference between drunken alcohol, stupor, and drunk on disrespect? So I can already tell that our Facebook members will give a great contribution. We say good evening to everybody joining us on Facebook. Keep the comments coming. Good evening to David Johnson, Mr. Gordon Henderson. It was great meeting you in Dominica. Jennifer Coffey and everybody else who's on the Facebook Live. Keep the comments coming. We will get back to them. So like we mentioned at the beginning, this is the tip of the iceberg. So Anna's situation is not an isolated incident, but this has been such a systematic problem for such a long time. I mean, we can date the abuse of women all the way back to slavery, right? The other day, I was having a conversation with my mom. She was telling me about the toxic work environment where men were placing bets on which woman they would, have encounters with. Even I had my own experiences being a flight attendant and having pilots say to me, water is scarce in the hotel. You want to shower together? Right. So all those are examples of sexual harassment, especially in the workplace. So how do we wrap our minds about this? How do we take steps to correct this ill that has plagued our society for so long? And I know, Annette, you have to leave in a little while. So let us begin with you, because this is such an issue that seems to be bigger than each one of us, that has plagued our society for so long. Right? How do we combat this issue?
For me, one of the primary ways I think that we can start is with the family. I believe that strong families will definitely help children to grow up in ways that, teach them good ways, good manners, good traits, so that they could grow up in society in a way that they will treat women right and they will treat little girls right. So it has to begin with the little ones. You cannot try to fix things without reaching out to the children. So the family has to be very strong. It has to have good morals. The parents have to be very solid and be able to guide them. Then you would move on to having policies and ensuring that these policies are implemented. Right now in Dominica, we do have policies that protect women. As you may have heard earlier this year, laws were enforced to protect women. But the issue is we have a lot of institutions of states that are not functional. primarily because a majority of these individuals working in these places um, are political, I would say. So, because they support a party, if the individual or the offender belongs to that team, then they will find ways to allow that person to walk free or not face the full consequence of what they did. And so this is becoming a major, major problem. We see murderers walking free. We see persons abusing our young girls, having no penalty at all, going out on bail, and all these issues. So we need to have our policies enforced. Um, the officers, the policemen, they need to do their jobs. I have had several instances where I personally went out to report domestic abuse cases to the police, and they were like, it's a boyfriend girlfriend thing. We don't want to get involved. And at just this year, I had to be very forceful with one of the officers, and I said, but laws were enforced this year. How can you not say that you are not even going to look at what is happening or even find some information as to what's really happening to the individual? And then they said, that is true, we have to go and find some ways. But then in some areas, like in Dominica, for example, it's just uh, problems upon problems, because for us, sometimes the police officers don't have a vehicle. So that affects their work. So if you make a report, how are they going to get to the homes in the communities, especially if it's very far? Then some of them are not trained in that area as well. So you have to look at the different factors of how you can assist. And there are so many different ways and so many things that you can do with training the police officers in various fields, mental health, child development, child protection, and all of these things can assist. Then you can also find ways to have all these sectors collaborate, because oftentimes you find there is a gap between how they communicate. So women abuse may go to the police to do the report, but the police wouldn't report to the Bureau of Gender Affairs because there's a lack of communication. There have also been times when persons go to do the report, but they are not taken seriously, or they have to wait very long hours and go through this tedious process of having to repeat themselves a number of times. And as a victim, you can get really frustrated with the system. Mm-hmm. So having a specific sector within the police force or the police community, you can have women who are abused go directly to that sector and get the help and they need immediately, without having to go through all the different areas within the police force, make a report here, then move to another area. So that would be one way to help. And just ensuring that our laws are enforced and that the policemen do their jobs. Mm-hmm. I think that is one of the ways to go. But for me, one of the fundamental key is to ensure that our families are solid, our children are trained, and our children are passed on with the appropriate information to be able to grow up learning to respect women and to do better in whatever capacity they have to do in terms of treating women right.
Yeah, and Annette, you're absolutely correct. And we will look at the socialization of our children in a little while. But you're so correct, because I've heard of incidences where women have gone to report domestic abuse, and the police officers are saying, like you said, that's a boyfriend-girlfriend issue, pretty much saying they will not get involved. And also telling the young lady, well, maybe you should be a little bit more gentle. Maybe you should not raise your voice so much, kind of just demeaning her. So I think that this is the opportunity to really get the police trained to recognize domestic abuse and to intervene rather than downplaying what the person may be experiencing. So, Rosie and Delia, let's come over to you as we talk about how do we combat this systematic abuse that has plagued Dominica and the rest of the world for generations.
Well, Simone, what I would say is that the change has to begin with us. There are certain things that we have buried deep within our psyche that even we as women, we are enablers. And what I mean by that is we blame victims. So for example, if a woman is in a relationship and there is some sort of abuse between she and her partner, and she may decide, okay, for the moment I am moving back to my mother's house, then her mother may look at her and ask her, what did you do to make him do that to you? So women are held accountable for a lot of things that happen to them. Also, we find that our economic situations
Yes.
sometimes play a big role in how much control we feel we have over our lives. And sometimes people soften us up, and especially if the right principles are not drummed into you from very early. Be satisfied with what you have. Make do. Do not envy. Somebody is coming to offer you, and most times people may offer initially appearing as angels of light. And when the real person starts coming on board, then people begin to make excuses. They will tell you, oh, yes, he slapped you, but he's a very good provider. Look at how he takes care of you, or whatever. And we have a lot of pervading thoughts in the society. So, for example, you would have a woman who's in a serious relationship, and she may go out and she's looking very attractive, and the people still ask, did your husband, did your boyfriend see you when you left the house? Because you're a perpetual girl, so you have to get permission to look nice. Okay? And there are so many other things that we accept it as normal. And until we can begin to unlearn these things, until we can remind our children, and notice I didn't say girls, because a lot of times we place a lot of emphasis on women and girls, and we forget that we live in societies that are made up of men and women. And a lot of the ills of societies come up based on interactions. So if we teach our girls how to be good girls, and we do not teach our boys how to be good boys, so it's fine. Our girls are to be good girls, and our boys are to be macho. So we have the double standards that we continue to perpetuate. Then we see those things showing up, and we don't even understand that these are the very things that we have cultivated within the confines of our homes. When we begin from very early to segregate and to separate the tasks that boys and girls
Yes.
must do.
Yes.
Boys must do the outside work. They must carry the water. They must sweep the yard. They must go and tie the animals. And the girls must live a sheltered life. And when you're going out, your brother must take care of you. Then it builds a sort of dependency syndrome in women. And we see it replicated when women begin to behave as if they must have a man in their life. It doesn't matter to them if that person is abusive or non supportive. but I would rather have a not so good man than no man at all.
Mhm.
We see it when you have a professional woman who reaches a certain age and she is apparently not in any relationship, not in any romantic entanglement. And people ask, what is wrong with you? Who says that anything is wrong with her? And people begin to make up all kinds of stories. Maybe she's a lesbian because a woman cannot, of her own free will, be professionally trained and be single. Something is wrong.
Mhm.
And then they begin to pick on women and harass women and tell them about the biological clock is ticking. How do you even know whether that woman wants to have children? She may have grown up in a situation where she made a decision that I do not want to have children. She's obligated to have children. And if you are married and you and your husband do not have any children, what wrong with you? He cannot make, you cannot make, something is wrong. And people sometimes humiliate women who are unable to conceive. And these things are things that we don't even think about. And a lot of times it is women who do these things to women. And we do not correct our male people, our boys. They come home late and we don't scold them. But if the girl is out, then you have something else. But we are seeing a total explosion right now
Mhm.
where women are fighting back and not necessarily in a good way because it's as if we've been oppressed for so long. So we go from one end of the
Mhm.
spectrum to another. And so they're out into exhibitionism and doing all sorts of things that really isn't what we are talking about when we're talking about empowering women, letting women live up to their full potential.
Mhm.
There is a lot of work that needs to be done. And we can begin simply by speaking kind words into people who are younger than us. Compliment young people on simple things that we might take for granted because we were brought up to do certain things. They may not know how to do it. And when they do it, we need to compliment them. The very same way we are very quick to call them out when they do bad. We speak a lot about the police officers, and yes, the situation is sad, but we must understand too that the police officers are operating within a society where you have when women's skins burn them at the time that they're being abused. Yes, they want the police to come so that the abuse can stop. But they are the very ones who, after they've listened to their friends telling them, but he was taking care of you, and if you leave him, where you going to live, and so on. And they are the very ones who will not show up for court and who will also give the police a very hard time. I remember there was one situation where a guy beat his girlfriend and he actually broke her arm. He was arrested. And by the time she had her cast on, she passed a few days later and told off the arresting officer because he wanted her man to go to jail. And you're laughing, but this is not a laughing matter. And
Wow.
when
Incredible.
he's sleeping with his wife, then she will be the one, her boyfriend in jail, and she'd have nobody to take care of her and so on. So what are we as women taught? What are we willing to accept? What are our standards? Let us begin with our children, the most impressionable ones. Tell them and make them understand that they are beautiful. If you wait for somebody to tell them that by the time they start blossoming and the little titties start growing and all of that, that person may be telling them that with an ulterior motive. But if you teach them from home, you are beautiful, you are precious, you are unique, then that child, some people might even say, she's full of herself. Yes,
Yes.
let us grow a
Yes.
generation of people who are self assured. So even when somebody whose behavior does not match their position in society utters pure rubbish, then we develop the dashing leaf mentality, because your words won't even touch me. They will roll off my back. And if your words happen to hurt somebody else, I will be there to stand with that person, man or woman. And that is how, little by little, we're going to build a strong society from the ground up.
Yes, very well said. And Janelle Colombo Massicot says, awesome presentation. So thank you for that, Delia. Rosie, give me a minute. Can you keep your notes on the question I asked before? Because I want to go first to Annette due to her time constraints, and just let her tell us more about the Rosie Sparks Women Dominica. What are your goals, your objectives, your mission, and how do you plan on accomplishing them through education, through action? What is the mission of your group? And then Rosie, I promise I'll come to you.
Dr. Simone, I will rather let Rosie speak to that. To be honest with
Okay.
you, when this all started, the support from women like Mrs. Weeks, Mrs. Dublin Prince, and Rosie herself, when she reached out to me the evening, we spoke about what is it that we could do to protect upcoming parliamentarians. And she said, Annette, let me sleep on it. I will get back to you tomorrow. And that is how it began. So when she when she got back to me the next day, it just started, and we just kept working at different things. So she has really been, like, we have the name Rosie Sparks. She has really been the spark that has really inspired myself and the other women in the group to continue to fight for this. She has really motivated us and has kept the group together, and been leading on most of the initiatives. So I would give her the honor of speaking about the group, speaking of what it is, and I am really honored to be part of it. I am really happy that this is happening, because I have seen the effects of it. I mean, women in parliament have really been abused from the opposition side, and the sad thing about it is the women on the other side, oftentimes you would hear them clapping and laughing, and you wonder, I mean, have we really made any progress in women's rights and advocating for women in Dominica because of how the other side behaves? And I think we need to come to a point where we get to look at issues outside of the politics. We get to dissect friends away from your workplace, that kind of thing, where sometimes we tend to be afraid to say certain things because of who we are associated with, or because that person is our friend, or that person is our employer, and we allow things to continue to build and get worse. I think we need to come to a point where we have to draw the line and create certain standards on where we would like to be and what we would like to see for our children. So I will just let Rosie speak to that, to the group, and then if of course I can add anything, I will do so.
Yes, so go ahead, Rosie, jump in. Since we started the conversation on the group, jump in, and I will give you an opportunity to talk about the systematic abuse of women as well. But given the time constraints with Annette, I want you to jump in and tell us, and then if there's anything you can add, Annette, you can go ahead as well.
Okay, so yes, we already our running when we hit the road. Our first motto was or is in defense of Matt Dominic and her children. So
Mhm.
while we started off, yes, with the focus on women in parliament, and I'm happy that Delia spoke to our boys and girls, our women and men. We have been hammering the fact it's our families, the children in the families, the men, women are not happy, the men are not happy either, and it's a collaborative effort. Whether women are married or not, we are in on the journey of life together as men and women, and we want to empower Matt Dominic and her children. For now, as I said, we started off with the incidents of Levi Peter, and I'm launching this attack on Annette. And Annette represents all the women of Dominica, and all the women of Dominica, we represent Ma Dominic. So
Mhm.
that is our objective there, to defend, to empower Ma Dominic and her children. With some, of course, focus on women and men one. Of course, the group is small, but we have received, it's more than the seven of us. By the way, we have a man, we have two men, we have two Rosie Sparks men, my husband Randy Felix and Mervyn John Baptist, who was on the road with us from day one. And so it's about women and men, because we need to do this together. um, the public here and Dominicans abroad have thrown their support behind us, and will be using their monies beyond the campaign to have Levi Peter resign and be the very last politician to degrade a woman in parliament. We will use our monies to empower families. We have to start, of course, with the children. Any culture, any knowledge, anything you want to instill in your society, yes, you have to start with children. So we'll be reaching out to the preschools. We talking about actions is thinking of, educating teachers. Preschool teachers should be educated on how to instill in preschoolers, because it's not it doesn't always come from the home, because remember, we have many young parents, teenage parents, who themselves
Mhm.
don't have what it takes to empower their own children. So the wider the scope of people who are trained to empower our children, our preschool children, that's a way to go. One of the things that Rosie Sparks, women and men, will be doing is, and we've started, is punching holes in the lies that have been told to us. And Delia spoke, gave a lot of examples. Growing up, we've been told a lot of lies. For example, sticks and stones can break my bones, but words can do me no harm. Or that women we should dress up, make up, and show up, but shut up. We shouldn't speak. Or all when we being ourselves, or we look, all the credit is to the men. Like we don't have we don't have a say in our own development and in our own independence. um a family court is something that has been put on the table for many years now. My husband being a former social worker, that have been placed on the table for years. Delia and I will recall, we were at some session many years ago, and the current minister for justice, when we were robbers for bringing that family court issue on the table. But it is something that we need to bring on, because when there's domestic violence, child abuse, people are embarrassed. It's a lot of pain for them to go in an open court and to talk about it, to raise their voice, to bring it to a space to address these issues. Workplace violence. So many years ago, when I was president of Dominican Nurses Association, we were fighting an issue of workplace violence, psychological abuse in the workplace. And one of the things we again asked the ministry to do was to develop a workplace, a policy against workplace violence. We said we could do that. The association, the Nurses Association, were willing to work with the ministry and with the Public Service Union. And they didn't take that up. So that is something again we will, bring back to the table. And of course, in other ways, formal ways like conferences. We're going to have some women conferences, women and mothers and girls, fathers and boys. We're going to look at those things because really and truly, we have not made. Yes, in the law, government has strengthened the law just this last April, but it was most embarrassing to hear the Prime Minister on Independence Day in his address. He referenced the legislation, and yet he holds the verbal abuse of Annette in the Parliament. Seems like my internet is acting up again. I will pause here, Simone, so you take it away.
Yes. Yes. And Annette, if there's anything else you would like to add before you leave, and if your husband's Facebook name is Claude Sanfi, he's
Yes.
watching, so we say good evening to him.
Yes. Okay. One thing I didn't hear Ms. Felix mention was defending parliamentarians, and I think that will also be one of the things that we will look at in the future. So any other woman parliamentarian that will encounter these kinds of issues, we definitely will stand in support of them and find ways to ensure that, they get the justice. So going forward, we definitely are we are looking forward to seeing Levi resign from office, the Attorney General, and that we would have a new Attorney General represent us in Parliament. Because oftentimes we think that these leaders are in charge of us, but really and truly it's the people who pay for them to be there. Our tax money is the money who consistently gives them a salary at the end of the month. And if they are being abusive, if they're overusing their power in the wrong way, then we have the right to be able to say no, we deserve somebody better. And therefore, we will continue our campaign until he resigns and until we get a new Attorney General. Going forward, I just want to encourage women and girls in Dominica not to accept the abuse that often passed on to them. We in Dominica right now face many forms of abuse. Like Mrs. Wick said, due to the economic situation in Dominica, we find that they are very vulnerable young women and women on a whole. I see it in my community, I see it at my workplace, and people in power abuse them to get jobs, abuse them to send them to study, abuse them to give them little resources that they need, and this shouldn't be. I think that as leaders, the environment should be one in which everybody have that freedom to be able to survive and live in a manner that they are happy and not feel as if they're coerced into something. I've had testimonies from young women wanting to go to study, being faced with leaders who try to impose themselves on them. But again, they're afraid to come off and say these things in public. So usually one-on-one. And right now, the support that communities have to be able to provide to these women, it's lacking. So many of the women have nowhere to go. They have no one to talk to. Right now, although the bureau, they're trying to organize and put counselors in the district, but they are still faced with challenges in terms of the human resource to be able to do the work. But I just want to encourage the women to stand up. You don't have to take the abuse. You have survived difficult times, I'm sure. Um, if you stand up and speak out, you will get the support from women. There are women who have been through it already, and there are women who will stand with you and give you the support if you make yourself known, if you talk about it, if you ask for the support. I am very grateful, like I said, for the women who have stood up with me. When the incident occurred, um, I thought I would have to face it on my own, but I was shocked because the next day, I heard comments from different women, and it made me feel good to know that people were standing up with me. And I want to tell them thank you. I appreciate it. I have called a few of them in person and expressed my thanks, and I will continue to work with them and work on behalf of Dominica to represent our women and our girls. Currently, I'm working on a project within the territory. I was very fortunate. Well, my NGO was very fortunate to have gotten this grant from the Canadian Fund for Local Initiatives. So right now we're working on addressing gender-based violence in the Kalinago territory. And we are doing awareness programs, going to the schools, sensitizing the children on how to treat women. And we're also providing services in terms of ensuring that the young women from our community who dropped out of high school at an early age get the opportunity to do CXC subjects and some skills like pastry making and sewing. So currently we have 13 individuals enrolled in doing the CXCs over, and we have about 10 individuals signed up for the skills session. So I'm not only talking about what I want to do, but I'm actually implementing activities within the territory to ensure that we create this better environment for people and our women. And I just want to say, if there's anybody out there who perhaps maybe needs some encouragement, you can also feel free to call me, call Nurse Felix, call Mrs. Wicks, find somebody to talk to, and I'm sure we will definitely give you some support.
Yeah, this is wonderful to hear the actions that are being taken. It is just so admirable. Before you leave, Annette, is there any contact information you might want to leave with the audience? If anyone who might want to get in touch with you, your email address, or somehow that folks can get in touch with you?
Yes, so my number is 615-1381. My email address, you can contact me via my NGO email address, which is kibekwati@gmail.com. It's KIBEKUATI@gmail.com. Also, you can follow some of the work that we do on our website, which is kibekwati.org.
And do me a favor, just WhatsApp me that information so I can post it on Facebook for anyone who might have missed it. So again, thank you for being here. If you need to leave, you can do so. If you can stay with us, that would be lovely as well. But thank you for being here as we continue this important discussion. So I want to go over to the studio to invite our callers to be a part of the conversation. And Facebook, I am coming to you to take your comments. But before we do, let me remind our audience, including those who are joining us on Q95 Radio, Facebook, and YouTube at Q95 FM Radio and Push Past 10, that you're listening to Roots Connections. And today we're talking about, as the world continues to change and evolve, is our attitude towards women and girls in Dominica still very antiquated. We're joined by, well, Mrs. Annette Sanford just left us. We continue to be joined by Mrs. Delia Coffee Weeks, women's advocate, and we also have Mrs. Rosie Felix, nurse midwife, and she is the founder of Rosie Sparks Women, Dominica. So we still have a lot to unpack this evening, but we want to make sure that you two are a part of the conversation. So Lambi, let us come over to you so you can give the numbers, invite the callers to call in, and we can take some comments on Facebook.
Good evening. Roots Connection and Q. The numbers are 449-3095, 449-3096, 449-3097, and 616-4257. Those are local numbers. The overseas or international number is 305-432-9624. Let me run those numbers one more time. Local numbers 449-3095, 449-3096, 449-3097, 616-4257. The international number 305-432-9624. We're standing by for your calls and we pass it back to you, Simon.
Yes, thank you, Lambi. So we say good evening to Glenda, Lavidu, Burton, Veronica, Pascal. We said Claude Sanfi before. We have Teresa Roll, Addie John. She says humble and powerful women. Mike C, Yogi Dudu, David Joseph. Always great to see you. Greetings and warm and pleasant good night to all of you powerful and influential women. Amos King, great to have you on board. We have a phone call. Let's go.
Good evening, caller. Thanks for joining us. Go ahead, please.
I say praises, thanks, blessings, and glory to all those who sacrifice their personal safety and security, trying to elevate mankind to humanity. Lambi, blessings to your family, sir.
Thanks, bro. Blessings to you.
God blessings, sir. And the ladies there, Delia, and everybody else, more power be to women. Blessings to
Good
you all.
evening to you.
Prior to my awareness, I was as ignorant as many people who really don't know how to treat women. But some people, they think it's an entitlement to do whatever they want with woman because a woman should be seen and not heard. A woman is the weaker vessel. But I had an experience when I was not there, but I was told a man is so powerful, he has all his muscles, but he have two children. The third child, he say he want to be there. When he see what that happening, he fall down, brother. He had another baby to attend to on the ground with all his muscles. So I wonder who is the weaker vessel. Women have to be more creative and innovative in getting those abusers, particularly people in high places who use state resources to bribe women, to what they call blackmail women, using state resources. So women have an idea which I will not make public. I'll share it to Rosie or Annette. These men have to be entrapped. Their own, let me not be too more explicit, because there need to be creative and innovative ways to bring down people in high places. I mean, we are not America, but we have seen a lot of things in the world. And I want to commend Rosie, Annette, Delia Coffee Weeks, a veteran, into the fight against all form of abuse. And Mr. Weeks, blessed night to you. Sorry I call your name, I know you're not a woman, so don't get vexed, all right? Anyway, blessed night to all you, and I'm there listening. Take care.
Yes, thank you, blessings. Yes, so he's absolutely right, because one of the ways that, we have to combat this issue is figuring a way to expose this man. Because as long as things are kept hidden and in secret, then these men feel empowered to continue their behavior. So blessings, I hope that you'll reach out to Delia or Rosie and let them know your idea for combating this issue. Because again, it takes all of us working together to combat this.
Yes,
Delia, you
Simone.
wanted to say something?
Yes,
Rosie, go ahead.
Simone. I am throwing out an invitation to yes, I'm throwing, it's one of our plans is to invite women, to reach out to us. Women who've been abused by
Yes.
people in high places. We really need to expose them. Now, if you're doing it alone, you might feel unsafe, but as Annette said before exiting, that there are many women waiting to embrace you and to stand with you. So that's how we're going to end it. Otherwise, the more we stay in fear, this thing is going to continue until we ourselves, this continue out to us. We will stand with you. Let us expose these men because they feel safe, and that's one of their strategies. They threaten you, or they pay you off, they groom you, they bribe you, so you remain quiet, and they will remain safe. And they go from one woman to the next, to the next, to the next, harming several women and several families in the future.
Yes, thank you for that, Rosie. Delia, I'm going to come to you, but we have a phone call. Then I'm coming to you, Delia.
Okay, no props.
Good evening, caller. Please go ahead with your call.
Hello, good evening. I want to say, sorry, excuse me. I want to say good evening to all of the ladies on the panel,
Good evening.
especially to my schoolmate, Delia Wicks, or Delia Coffee Wicks. She was my schoolmate and has been always the right person in my class. And I am very impressed of her for where she has gotten in terms of a profession and in terms of being an activist in defending the rights of girls and ladies in general in Dominica, and I would say worldwide as well, because she is not limited when it comes to human. She's not a racist person, but at the same time she's located in Dominica, so she is using much of her energy to defend the rights of young girls and ladies and women in general in Dominica. So I want to also congratulate her on her contribution towards the national outfits and all of what she does during the independence celebration for ladies in terms of the way they dress and, trying to be creative. She has been creating her own expression in terms of how she ties the lady's head and the outfits that she puts out for them. And, there's so many things I can say about her. And I want to say to her, she is a hero and she's my hero. And I'm proud of her. Delia, keep it up. And to all the ladies on the platform, I do not know you all personally, but the conversation that you are having is of a top level, a high level, and I want to congratulate you. I have not been a caller of this program, but here in Delia, I was forced to do that because I can remember during our school days how bright she was in maths, in English, just name it, you got it. So Delia, big up to you, big up.
Yes, thank you, caller. Thank you for that contribution. Do we have another call, Lambi?
Yes, we do. Caller, please go ahead on the overseas line.
Yes, good evening, Lambi, and good evening to your panel.
Good evening.
Weeks and Simon and Nurse, long time Nurse boy. So that Nurse is a little boy, eh? She don't know what I'm talking there, but she knows she'll smile. Yeah, panel, I've been listening to the discussion. They're very, very, very good discussion. And I think blessings took that I'm driving and I'm listening, and blessings went right down my alley of thought, exactly where
Absolutely.
I was and what I am saying to myself. But there's a very critical component that has to be established before you lead up to what blessings say in terms of entrapment. And it is a very sensitive avenue to go and a very strategical avenue to develop. And that is the avenue of grooming a victim into confidence for expose, for just what Blessing said.
Mm-hmm.
I say so because in our society that is so small and tight and everybody knows everybody, you're not going to get nobody to partake and openly come forward just like that with critical information, critical their personal engagement and encounters, where their sexuality was compromised, they were invaded, in their private space, so to speak. So I can say that on the radio. I said I would have called Simon after and tell her what I think for her to bring it to the panel at the end of the day. But Blessing said the same thing. He will discuss that privately. You don't expose your strategies. But one thing I can say openly is that I think there should be a domain for victims to be able to communicate with an given an alias name, and they don't know which one of you guys on the panel that they're going to be communicating to, right? Very critical in a zone of secrecy first. And it depends on your professional engagement and your professional encounter, which is where you come in as a groomer to be able to establish confidence within that person now to go to the next step. Because what I was thinking and what Blessing said, it actually takes a second step before a first step, which is a very hard step to make. So we need to have a platform where people can email or communicate openly about their situation, what they have been through. There should be a little platform of strategical counseling there. They don't know who they're talking to. You all don't know who you are talking to as well, the professionals. And at some point in time, when you establish that comfort zone and the confidence within that person that they did nothing wrong, and they're ready to, they're mature and seasoned enough to go to the next level to create that irrefutable evidence of the people in question that commit this act. We need to bring that to light, but we need to bring it to light with facts. You understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
We need to bring out the information where it cannot be disputed. So we technically have to engage them in the act, a sort of like an undercover sort of scenario. But it takes a gutful, groomed person. That's where the grooming comes in the forum I'm talking about, the preliminary forum which you engage them, to be able to get that sense of safety, confidence, and that willingness to really engage themselves in the entrapment of those predators. But that is a very good program tonight there.
Thank you. Thank you, Tad. Yes.
And I think you all should keep it going. Yeah, there's room to develop something. I wouldn't say everything on the radio, but there's a lot of room to develop a lot to eliminate that problem. It's not hard, it's strategical, and you have to be consistent on that strategy, and we can conquer.
Yes. Thank you so much, Tad. Thank you for your contribution. And both Tad and Blessings are absolutely correct. So, Delia, I want to come over for your thoughts on the grooming, the providing a platform for victims to connect so they can share their stories, the potential, like Blessing says, to expose these predators. Your thoughts, Delia?
Okay, Simon, I guess I am going to give people some news. Some people already know that what we're talking about is not something new.
Mm-hmm.
There is already a sort of informal network that is provided by Lifeline Ministries, where we've had a number of people trained, and we have launched and executed successfully a program called Pieced Together, where you're looking at people who are broken for whatever reason, and by the end of the program, they have PEACE. And that is a program, a licensed program that is done using art and talk therapy to help people deal with different trauma in life. So yes, there is already this system existing. Granted, it is far from adequate, but at least it is a start. And while I hear the brothers who called and I understand where they're going, I will say two things. One is that a person who has been victimized for whatever reason is a traumatized person, and we need to work on getting that person from being a victim to the next level, which is a survivor. And coming out of that, you may have some people becoming advocates. If there are people who are willing to work with the entrapment scheme, that is a totally different group of people, because victimizing victims is not part of the plan. And the thing is, a person who has been traumatized, if the plan backfires, you may do more harm than good. So we have to be very careful and very strategic in how we go about this thing. I am one of the facilitators for the Pieced Together program, and I can tell people that it works. It works. I have seen on more than one occasion the drastic changes that have taken place in people's lives. Some people do not even focus so much on the perpetrator going through the court system, because we know the court system is a nightmare. But for a lot of victims, if they can even have a confrontation with the perpetrator, and if the perpetrator is willing to admit that they wronged that person, for a lot of victims, that is enough. We have to look at, as Sister Rosie said, our court system is failing people who are victimized. Things move too slowly to the benefit of perpetrators, and victims eventually get frustrated. Maybe that is the plan in the first case, and so matters get thrown out. One of the other things we have to talk about, Simone, is the systematic way in which women are boxed in. And this became quite apparent earlier this week when a colleague of mine who was in a more developed country than Dominica, he recently came back and he attended a high-powered meeting. And the woman who was in the building, in the meeting, was tasked with taking notes. And he was most upset because he was like, note taking is not a woman's job. And had that happened in the place that I just came from, somebody might have lost their job. They would not even have thought of automatically asking, note taking, women's work. We need to stop with that. The question of people expecting women to be the ones to make coffee for everybody else, because they look at women within the workspace as just an extension of home. And this is wrong. But if we just accept, oh, but it's not a big problem, I can do it, then we ourselves are perpetuating those things. And we need to bring women to that point where women understand you were employed not as a cleaner, not as a coffee maker. You were employed on the strength of your qualifications to do a job. Everybody else in there was employed based on their qualifications, although now we know people are not necessarily employed based on the strength of qualifications. We have situations where people just show up and they tell you, this person sent me. And they may end up doing nothing and they get a very fat salary and all of that. That is another topic altogether. But people must value themselves, and people must learn to be firm, not rude, but stand your ground. If you are asked to do something that is not within your job description, you may choose to do it if you are at a loose end, you don't have a very heavy workload on that day or whatever, but make people understand, I am doing this because I choose to do it, not because I am obligated to do it. So the women, if you are employed as an administrative assistant, then it is your job to take notes. It is your job to type and do these things. That is what is in your job description. But if you are employed as an engineer, why should you be expected to take minutes at a meeting? I had this situation where I called out a supervisor and I said to the supervisor, do not ask me to come to your meeting to take notes. This is not my job description. And he was most upset because who is this little girl to tell me that she's not coming to take notes? But I stood my ground. I may have been victimized for it, but when to every action there is a reaction. And it is all of these things that we have to begin to get into people's heads. Now, one of the critical things that we missed thus far in talking about our economic situation, what is the system putting in place as a safety net to protect vulnerable people? A lot of the people who are abusers, whether verbal, physical, whatever, they take advantage of vulnerable people. Certain situations I hear, I am like, Jesus, these people will not approach me with those ridiculous situations because they know I'll give them a backhand and send them to the back of beyond. But they know who they can speak to, and these people have nowhere to turn. Where are the food banks? Where is the temporary housing? Where is that shelter that a woman can go to if she and her children need to be protected from a particular situation? When you're caught between a rock and a hard place, you make the best decision at the time, which may not be the best decision for you. There are women out there who are having casual sex for money, transactional,
Transactional.
not because they want to do it. At the place that they're at, this they see as their only way out. And we, the very same women who will not help them, who will not give them a plate of food for their children, who will not give them hand-me-down clothing, we are the very ones who sully their names, who talk about how nasty they are and the kinds of things that they do. Dr. Simon, I wish that everybody listening to this program would have a change of heart and begin to accept personal responsibility for the state that the country is in. And begin to ask yourself, what is it that I can do to help people to get out of the hole that they find themselves in? I have a wardrobe of clothes that I have not worn in like forever. If you have the clothes there and you've not worn it in the past 3 months, chances are you're never going to wear it. It's not just because you love to see it and, oh, that was the blouse my nenen gave me and whatever, I cannot part with it. Give it to somebody who might put it to good use. Let go of those things that you do not need because there is somebody else who may have need for it. Some of us have our cupboards well stocked up with food. Some of our food is in expiring and getting weevils and all of that because we cannot consume it fast enough. And there is somebody within our community who is doing God knows what to give their children a little bit of brown sugar water and maybe a dry piece of bread. Can we comfortably say that we are doing our part in helping to empower people. Because some of those things which sound so simple can make the difference in the life of a person. If some women know, at least I have somebody who will hear me out and not judge me. And the women will tell you, I have done things I am not proud of. So they don't need you to tell them that what they've done was not the best. They already know that. But be that kind person who will listen to them. Sister Rosie, we're going to have to find a way to set up that hotline.
Mm-hmm.
Funders have to find a way to come on so
Mm-hmm.
that, yes, people can have the security of knowing that I can speak to somebody on the other end of the line without being judged, without when I say I did that for them say, Bunche, how you can do a thing like that? No. And it's not every and everybody who's cut out for this. And we're making the appeal. There's a lot that needs to be done. There are people who are willing to work. Some of them need retooling because they want to do it, but they don't know how. The harvest is great. The laborers are few.
Few.
But the few laborers who have already set their hands to the plow, they are not turning back.
And you know, Delia, you're so right because it boils down to economics. So where are the safety nets, the social services support systems that ought to be in place so that women do not have to resort to selling their bodies to be able to make a living? And again, going back to socialization, you are so correct because even with my experience in Dominica recently, we were at an event setting up and we were talking about the need to clean a bathroom. And we looked at a 25-year-old young man and he said, oh, that's woman's work. 25. 25 years old. So it is clear that he has been socialized to think that work such as cleaning bathrooms and household duties belong to a woman when in fact they should be shared responsibility. So we have a lot to unpack with this conversation, but I'm so happy that we are thinking along the lines of action because we haven't even started looking at elements such as the music, the cultural elements that feed into all of this. So that is a whole other conversation. But we also have to look at the toxicity of the work environment because we find that many women are sexually harassed at work. And Facebook, I haven't forgotten about you. I will come and take some of your comments, but I know that Avril Bertrand is joining us this evening, and she was somebody who reached out to me very passionate about the sexual harassment of our women at work. She says young ladies are openly being harassed. There's the old boys club mentality. Many of our young ladies fear the loss of their job and being blacklisted. And she also included that men too are harassed, but the majority are women. So I wanted to thank Avril for reaching out to me to let me know that this is truly going on in Dominica. And then when you hear of situations like, ministers or pal reps having couches in their offices, you hear incidences of used condoms in the trash. That speaks to what we're talking about in terms of economic victimization, where we have these young women who are in desperate need of opportunities, whether it is a job, it is a scholarship, it is something for their children, and they are being enticed to do what they would otherwise not do in order, and who's to say they even get the opportunities after all of this? So this is a serious situation, and I'm happy that we're taking the time this evening to pull the veil back, to lift the veil, to open the curtains, to really talk about this and to talk about a way forward. So Rosie, let me come over to you for your thoughts, and then Facebook, I promise I'll come and take some of your comments. Rosie?
Yes, Simon, I'm happy that Delia reminded us of Lifeline, because Rosie Sparks, we're not pretending that we have it all. As a matter of fact, there are many organizations and women like Delia long before us, as you rightly said, or called to partner with these organizations, including the Dominica National Council of Women. We plan to refer, because skills we do not have, and other groups like Lifeline and Delia, they have those skills. The DNCWTF has trained women to receive other women, to hear, other women, listen to other women without being judgmental. So groups already established in that. We're not here to overturn anything. We just want to support, to even to help and put out the word out there. There is help for women. There is not only help that we want, but there is some help. And if you can save one woman and heal her spirit, because yes, there all the women who've gone through this, and girls, and boys, they are traumatized. They need therapeutic support. They need non-judgmental people. And yes, we're going to be very need to be very strategic, as these people decide to come forth, so that we don't cause um more harm than good. But certainly we want to help in spreading the word more, that and punch more holes in the lies that we've been told, the myths that we have been told, the way we've been socialized. I support, I'm in support of this, and it's out of those lies that we are where we are. The workplace you mentioned, we have a lot of violence, and especially subtle sexual violence against women in the workplace. The guys tend to do like it's just a little play. We are colleagues, and so, but it goes beyond that. And the women who are not empowered enough, it goes from one stage to the next until it reaches a point of no return. And then you have a traumatized woman, a broken woman, and so on. As for the economics, yes, the economics is a major factor among the many other factors that that play a role in the abuse of women in the workplace, in the home, and as such, it is one of the areas solution is urgently needed, because the more our women are economically independent, the less they have to rely on the people who provide that support in exchange for hurting them.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's take some comments before our time runs out. Good evening to you, Stain, Seraphine, Peter Thomas, Peter Carbon George, Maslin Edwards. Great to have you on board. David Joseph says there's a lot, and take some notes if you guys want to respond to any of the comments. David Joseph says there's a lot about Dominica that is antiquated. Our attitude towards our women and young girls is one such example. The attitude of rich, powerful, and influential men who believe that women are simply a piece of meat has to change. Marcelin says, good evening, D.A. Rose, and your panel of honorable, phenomenal women like yourself, as well as your listening audience. I'm glad to be logged into the powerhouse. Gabriel says, Mrs. Sanford, stay strong. Don't forget Tony, Ascafan, call Dominican pigs, cockroaches, cacadocks to support Peter's statement. You must not forget Dominican First Lady can stand in your shoe and stay cool, Roots Lady. Let's take a comment from somebody we haven't heard from. Petra Carbon George. Although both are disrespectful, most people would say it's nonsense and that the person is speaking under the influence of alcohol and let it slide, probably address them after the fact. Let's go to somebody else. Judith Cochran, great to see you. Someone we haven't heard from. Let's see here. Avril Bertrand, great to see you. Self-worth starts in the home with the example set forth by parents or parents. Jennifer Coffey, great to see you. Amos King, it starts in the home where parents teach their sons to protect and treat their sisters and women with dignity, having to treat people in general with human decency. It seems our men have sacrificed their morals on the altar of politics where we throw out values aside, posturing on political platforms with no regard for the choice of words they use. Also, women must demand respect from both men and women. Avril says some women sadly find satisfaction in bringing each other down due to their own low self-esteem. Josephine Dublin Prince, great to see you. Very good program. The topic must continue at family, community, and national level. How are we socialized as males and females, and how does that affect the way we view ourselves or express your power enshrined in or guided by your fundamental human rights? Let's see who else we have. Somebody I haven't seen. Martin Edwards again. Women are being abused by Parliament, a place where they should be protected at the highest level, and other female parliamentarians chuckle in approval. How classless those enablers are. Lynn Joseph. For too long, our women have been silent. This movement is of critical importance for addressing and possibly correcting the many social issues affecting women and girls in our land. Today, you are making baby steps, but tomorrow you would have covered many miles on this journey. We join you in the process. Thank you for that. Lauren Del Sol, always great to see you. Carl Kofi James, nice to see you. He says, Queens on the panel, maximum love and respect. Stand up and speak out. We got to stop the abuse of our women. Somebody we haven't heard from, Andy Matthew. Good program, listening. Only two men. Where are all those men in opposition in different organizations? Why are they left behind? Peony Shirley, I'm listening from St. Thomas. Great to have you on board. My mom, Medina, sent us, hey, mommy, the lights come back, man. They are taking lights in Baffert State. What else is new? Good evening, beautiful ladies. I'm listening. Joanne Smith, good evening to you. Gail Brody, good evening to you. Let's see, anybody we haven't heard from. Lavette Laurent, nice to have you on board. Owen Prosper, good evening, Patriots family. I'm locked long time on Q, great panel. Last name Thomas. I'm not going to try to pronounce your first name. I'm very proud of all those powerful women that stand up for the right of women, and Dominica, all powerful. Roll out. Men need to hold each other accountable and not turn a blind eye because of the proverbial boys club. Don't be afraid to call out bad behavior. John Carbon, great to see you. Don Law and Allison Peltier, my former classmate. Nice to see you, Allison. Great job, ladies. Women need to know they are enough. They need to educate themselves and learn a trade. So some powerful information coming in on the Facebook Live comments and our phone calls. Ladies, any reactions to the comments?
Yes, I would just like to say thank you to all the people who are supporting us. That is critically important because, sometimes even when you set out on a journey and you think that you're willing to do everything, it's good to know you have somebody at your back who is supporting you. I saw Maslin asking whether there was a way that any of the organizations could receive concessions most probably for clothing or whatever. Lifeline Ministry is a registered non-profit organization. I am sending you, Simone, the information so you can put Lifeline's contact there,
Yes.
and people can send whatever they have to Lifeline: clothes, food, furniture, whatever. And I can guarantee you that it is distributed to the people who need it the most. There is no fee. People get what they need. And if even there are people within the confines of Dominica who have stuff, they can also send it, channel it through Lifeline, and the people who need it the most can begin to benefit from that. And it could be one way of setting up an informal safety net. We are not taking away that responsibility from government for caring for the most vulnerable. But in the meantime, whatever it is that we can do to assist, we know government systems are normally bogged down in red tape. As individuals and as community, we can move much faster. Let us see how we are able to help our brothers and sisters. As Dice would say, somebody, please help my brother for me. Somebody, please help my sister for me. Simon, I'm sending that information to you.
Yes, thank you. And thank you for catching that comment from Marceline. And, guys, if you missed any portion of the program, don't forget you can go back tomorrow. You can log on to Q95 FM radio on YouTube and Facebook, as well as Push Past 10, and you will be able to catch any portion of the program you may have missed tonight. So we also have the information for how to get in touch with Annette and the work that she's doing in the Kalinago territory. She stated it before, so you can go back and get that information. And of course, we will provide you with the information that Delia is about to provide to us. Rosie, your thoughts?
Yes, based on the comments that you read earlier, I'm pleased that the men are and their contributions are very strong. That basically, condemning men who the behavior rather of men who abuse women. It tells me that these men who are contributing to the conversation, that they themselves are respectable men, and there's hope. We have respectable men in our society. We have respectable men who look at women and cherish us for who we are, um not just as people who, okay, you grow up and then because women, I mean, and we'll take, I feel good that as women, we are so talented and innovative and creative. We do all things well. Give that to us. But that is not to say men should or abuse us. So I'm pleased to hear the men who are contributing to the conversation, and of course, power to the empowered women who are speaking up. They don't tolerate any abuse from any man, and those who are contributing, who've contributed financially, those who are planning to support and send to us, to Lifeline, to any organization that's standing up for women. So we know the support is there. It's visible, and we are just pleased about it. So we are victors in this battle. We just need to manifest it more. And the safety net, yes, I want to speak about the safety net. Is something we need to look at more
Yes. So
closely, and
I
so where
just,
women can speak out and feel free that they're not judged at all, and they can get to that point and graduate to become an advocate themselves, for the women one of these good days.
yes, so I just went ahead and posted the information that was sent for both Lifeline Ministries and for Rosie Sparks organization. So I'm going to read the information very slowly for those who are listening on Q95. Lifeline Ministries Dominica. The phone numbers are, I'm going to read it very slowly so you can have time to grab a pen and paper. Lifeline Ministries Dominica 767 235 8367. Again, 767 235 8367 or 767 275 8367. Again, 767 275 8367. And their email address is lifelinedominica@hotmail.com. Again, lifelinedominica@hotmail.com. And for Rosie Sparks, it is going to be email Rosie, ROSISPARKS @gmail.com. And for financial support, we are offering our Nitcliff organization as a place to donate. So nidclf.com, N as in Nancy, I as in India, D as in David, C as in Charles, L as in Larry, F as in Frank, nidclf.org. And I'm going to go ahead and post all this information on Push Past 10 so that we can begin to have a collection of resources to support Rosie Sparks Dominica. So again, Push Past 10, PUSHPAST 10 .com, PUSHPAST 10 .com, and I will post the information there so we can have one spot to have all the information. Shavin Xavier, nice to see you. Eldika John, Yvonne Amor, great to see you. So guys, as we get ready to wind on the program, your final thoughts that you would like to share.
Well, Rosie, I'll take opening bats, and I will say that all is not lost. All is not lost. I am very encouraged
Yes.
by what has happened this evening. It has warmed my heart to see that we still have men with gray matter between their ears, who were brought up properly, who value other human beings regardless of their sex, their gender, their color, their race, their whatever. We have a lot of humans among us who are behaving like humans. We understand that the work is not easy, but we are committed. We encourage people to join the ranks whatever way you can. The talk is good, but we need action. Bless us with your money, bless us with your time, bless us with your talent, and let us heal our nation one person at a time. When we empower people, then we have less dependent people, and they will hopefully, through a system of paying it forward, begin to do for others what we have done for them. And later on, we should be able to turn our attention to the perpetrators, because even they too can contribute to our society, but we have a lot of work to do in bringing them back. Maybe the work is not all for us. The army will grow. The action is started by one little pebble, but it can turn into a landslide. And more than one pebble is here now. So the landslide has started. Let us continue the work. We have set our shoulder to the wheel. We are not turning back. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Dela. Thank you so much for your contribution and for your passion and your drive on these and other important missions that help to move Dominica forward. So thank you so much for being here and for adding to the contribution to this program. I look forward to continue working with you as we continue so many challenges and battles that we face in Dominica, not to mention the work we have to do with CAC.
Yes, Simone, the work continues.
Yes, the work continues. Rosie, over to you.
You again, Simon. Thank you, Delia, and to all the listeners who have logged in or tuned in. Yes, I too am very inspired and encouraged by those who have donated, commented, and by the very fearlessness of Josephine and Dr. Shillingford, who helped us punch that lie is a woman cannot show up and speak up on her birthday, and illustrate strength of a woman. All these women out there speaking, and the men. So I am inspired. I'm encouraged. It's a lot of work. We won't just wake up tomorrow morning and it's all done. So we ask persons to be patient with us, but we will be accountable to you as long as you continue partnering with us and here in the South. We will account to you what we're doing. The opportunity. The scripture says what the enemy meant for evil, God will turn it to raise our voices to say no to violence against families, all of the family, the boys, the girls, the men, the women. The men themselves need help. This month, on the 25th of November, is International Day to say no to violence against women and girls. We want to add our families, and Annette, I think she mentioned that before she leave. We'll be having an event in the Kalinago territory, and Rosie Sparks women intend to join her and her NGO to support that very project, which is about what we are speaking here tonight. And we look forward, I said, to partnering, to referring to Lifeline, to referring to Delia. We know Delia is very good at listening to women and whoever else in her team that has been trained to do this sort of work, because we want our women to be safe. We want when they reach out to us for help, we want to keep them safe. If they're not at the point yet of being empowered, we want no hurt, we want no more harm being done to them. So we will do everything it takes to protect our women, to empower them, and to protect them, to strengthen that safety net where they can come in and feel safe and grow and heal, and even graduate if possible to become advocates. So thank you again, Simon, for this platform tonight. Thank you for all those who have logged in, those who have contributed in the past on the Radio Fund. Thanks to Mr. G. Thanks to everyone. Let us put our shoulders to the wheel, because the task is not just one group or one individual. It is all of us to bring that change we want in our society. Because strong women, we conquer. Thank you very much.
Yes,
So
yes,
Simon,
yes,
I
yes.
sent you a
Very
correction
powerful.
of the email. So
Yes.
when you add that to push past 10, by all means you will. Yes. Thank you very much, everyone. Good night.
Yes, and thank you. Thank you, Nurse Felix, for your dedication, your commitment, to this particular issue that plagues our society. We here at Roots Connections, and I am sure I speak on behalf of Mr. G as well, Q95, we intend to be your media partner as you continue the fight to empower women and girls in Dominica and once and for all lift the veil and expose these men for the ill that they impact on women in our society. So again, we will be your media partner. So anything that you're looking to share, anything that you're looking to share with the public, you have my contact information. You can reach out to me, whether it be a flyer or you need coverage for a program. I would be more than happy to cover it for you on Push Button. And guys, don't forget, if you tuned in late, if you missed any part of the program, what I'm going to do, I'm going to take a copy of the video, which of course will include the audio and all the contact information for Lifeline Ministries, for Rosie Sparks, for Annette's NGO, and I will place it on Push Past 10. So it will be a one-stop area where you can get access to all the information, because I know many of you are not on Facebook. As a matter of fact, I was just in Dominica and I got to the airport and somebody approached me and said, "Hey, I know your voice." And I thought, oh my. So he said it was lovely to put a face to the name because he's not on Facebook. He simply listens to the program on Q95. So I want to make sure that people who are not on the Facebook can have access to the program as well. So again, pushpast10.com, pushpast10.com, and I will have all the information for you here. So we want to thank everyone who joined us this evening. Lambi, thank you. Showin, DJ Shan, our radio audience, our Facebook audience, our YouTube audience, our panel, Rosie, Delia, Annette. Thank you for being here this evening as we continue to work towards advancing Dominica, what needs to change in order for our people and our country to advance. So here on Roots Connection, we'll continue to support, the projects, the people, the events that are geared towards moving Dominica forward. You can please follow us on Q95 FM radio as well as Push Past 10 on Facebook. And again, one more time, if you are a small business and you're looking to grow your audience, you can always reach me at pushpast10@gmail.com. So we want to thank everyone who joined us as we looked at, as the world continues to change and evolve, is our attitude towards women and girls still antiquated. There's so much more work to be done, but as you can already see, we are putting the puzzle together. We are bringing in the human resources to tackle all the important issues. And I'm sure many of us listened to the Global View last night, and I want to congratulate Gabriel Christian, who has a brilliant idea of Dominica Shoppers Cooperative. And Gabriel, I hope that you'll reach out to me so we can flesh out that idea, because I think this is yet another opportunity to create financial independence for our people in Dominica. So again, we have so much work to do, but I think what we're seeing now is that more and more hands are coming on board to get the work done to move our country together. So Avril Bertrand, thank you for being here again. Great beginning of the conversation, which needs to continue relentlessly to protect the women and children. Cheryl Scott Gordon, great program. Thaddeus James, great to see you as always. Brood Vidal King, Wendy, great program. So ladies, thank you again. This has been fantastic. It is going to be an ongoing conversation, an ongoing project. So I look forward to working with you as we continue to empower our women in Dominica. So everyone, have a great evening. Thank you for being here. We will be back with you in 2 weeks. I believe that's going to be November 22nd with another impactful program. So until then, for all the best in daily programming, Q95da.com is where you ought to be. So with that, we say good evening and have a great rest of the week. Delia, Rosie, Lambi, thank you. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank
Jah Rastafari.